Ready? Close your eyes and let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now open them. Here we go.
Hello, and welcome to ChiroSecure's groundbreaking new program, Look to the Children. I'm your host, Dr. Monika Buerger, and I want to thank ChiroSecure for putting on this amazing opportunity for you to learn more about the pediatric population and how we as chiropractors can change lives of all ages and stages, and how we can make a difference in the pediatric population. So I want to welcome this is our launch show, by the way, so I'm ecstatic to announce the legendary, iconic Heidi Haavik. Hello, Heidi.
Hello, Monika.
Thank you for joining us today. Long time no see.
I know. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I thought, as our launch show, who other than to set the stage for what we are embarking upon and really setting the tone in the chiropractic realm, and how we do affect brains and not just backs. So who's the other one, the alternative than you to bring us to that point? So thank you so much for being here. I had a question for you. If you don't mind answering, why did you choose the title, The Reality Check, for your book?
There's been so many theories out there, and a lot of them are BS. I'm trying to be very kosher on this show. And so I really just wanted to set the record straight, because finally, after 120 odd years, we finally have one mechanism for how chiropractic care works that is actually backed by science. Doesn't mean we know everything yet, but at least we now know one mechanism. And so I sort of wanted to set the record straight. I wanted to have a bit of a moment in time to sit down and reality check, what is it that we actually do? And it's like you said, we actually affect brains through the spine. And it's so important that we as a profession understand that. So hence the reality check. Absolutely.
And I was thinking, you and I had a little bit of a conversation last night, and we got into, I have a fascination with sensory input in the amygdala and being stuck in the amygdala, and how the amygdala can create our new reality, which isn't really a reality. So I kind of saw this amazing book, by the way. This is Heidi's book. And I guess I should do you justice by saying you're a chiropractor and a neuroscientist that has led the way for us in neuroscience research out of the New Zealand Chiropractic College. So let's get that record straight. But I thought of another spin after our conversation last night, that I know you intended this to be a reality check for chiropractors and what we actually do, but also I think how we can change our own perception of reality if we can set the correct sensory tone for the amygdala. That makes sense?
Yep.
Because I refer to the amygdala as the fear monger, and it can alter our perception of reality and keep us stuck in the limbic system, and then we can't move forward because we've distorted our sense of who we are in our own reality. So I kind of got a double-edged sword tone for your title. How's that?
Excellent. No, I love it. I love it. It's really quite fascinating now, because the neuroscience is showing us that, it's really when you're in your adult, when you're in your, grown-up mind, it's the prefrontal cortex that takes over. And it's when we flip our prefrontal cortex for fear or whatever, then you go into that limbic system brain. And in that limbic system brain, there's no rationality, there's no time. It's literally just emotional based. And that's when you are completely irrational and you can't logically reason or anything. And you need your prefrontal cortex back in charge to be that adult person that can actually make rational decisions and move you forward in your life. So it's a really interesting topic. All of the psychology literature is really fascinated by this as well. This is There's a lot of research on this topic. So it's kind of cool, isn't it, that we're showing that we actually affect that prefrontal cortex.
Absolutely.
Which, you know, I mean, that's the part that we need in charge to be able to be rational and adult and make decisions that are actually good for us. But it's like you said too, it does change your reality. And I think that's it's another reason, obviously, I chose the book, is that it literally, you know, I think chiropractic is part of changing what you even believe is real. Your actual reality is made up of all this sensory information, and it just turns out that spinal function is far more important for our brains to create that reality than we previously realized.
Absolutely. And what I say is, when you're stuck in that, I call it limbic lock and load mode. It's like trying to reason with, you know, have you ever tried to reason with somebody when you're in the middle of a heated argument? It doesn't work well, right? So we know that sensory input will shape your reality, or distort your reality. What is the role that, paraspinal muscles, what's that role in regards to that sensory input and shaping that reality?
Well, we kind of accidentally came across it because I was having such trouble publishing research studies, because my studies were in asymptomatic people, which I had to have because I was trying to understand the effects of adjusting the spine on brain function. So people can't be in pain, because that confounds, you know, if people are in pain, it changes brain function anyway. So I just couldn't have that. But what I was having such a hard time then publishing the work, because the neuroscientists and the neurosurgeons that were reviewing the work were saying, well, you know, why are you applying a clinical intervention? It didn't matter. I was describing, you know, what it is I was applying my clinical intervention to. But anyway, long story short, we came across this category called subclinical pain. And what that means is people are in reoccurring ache, pain, or tension in their spine, but on the day we study them, they're totally asymptomatic. And this is now an acceptable population. So what we started to do is do quite a few studies with this group. But what we found when we're trying to recruit patients for the study, or subjects for the study, is that some people have actually never, ever, ever in their entire lives had any ache, pain, or tension. So then we went and changed our ethics, or applied for changing our ethics, so we could actually compare. So we ended up doing, you know, we've done about 9 studies now comparing people that either have an ongoing history of ache, pain, or tension, but totally asymptomatic on the day, with people that have never had any spinal symptoms ever. And what's really fascinating, Monika, this is where we think the muscle spindles, or the paraspinal muscles, the communication, is so important, because we've shown with this work that when your spine is in trouble, when you've got dysfunction or a history of dysfunction, even on days you're pain-free, totally symptom-free, if you have that history of spinal problems, it means your brain is less accurately aware of what's going on in your body and the world around you. It even changes how you see and hear things. That just blows my mind. Changes the way you mentally rotate things, changes your awareness of where your body is in space, where your arms and legs are, where your shoulders are. So it actually has, spinal dysfunction has a huge impact on the way we experience ourselves and our surroundings.
So if we look at that in regards to a pediatric population, if they've got a subluxation, if they get spinal dysfunction, especially of the upper cervical spine, correct me if I'm wrong, but their sense of where they are in space can limit or alter their developmental capacity to move through space.
Yeah.
So
you need to know where you are. Right. To be able to move. You need to know where your arm is in relation to the spine. You need to know where your shoulders are. You need to know where the environment is so that you can move properly. So imagine that child trying to develop when they're not actually aware of what's going on in their own bodies or their environment.
Absolutely.
Trip over air. No wonder they, you know, have accidents all the time.
I'm getting more and more patients coming in referred to me because kiddos in kindergarten, first, second grade, they literally are falling out of their chairs. They cannot sit because they don't know that vestibular proprioceptive system is not engaged. So with those adjustments, we're going to help fire that input to the brain so that they can start realizing where they are in space. Is that
That's the neat thing, because that was my main work. I mean, that's what I was trying to look at. What were the effects of then adjusting subluxations? And that's exactly what we've shown. We've shown when we adjust subluxations that we change proprioceptive processing in the brain, that we improve our awareness of where our arm is in space, that you can take a faster step, that you can change and improve the way your brain perceives sound and visual information, that you can mentally rotate tasks better. You know, all these things that you can, the motor control to your muscles changes, becomes more efficient. So there's you know, and again, like, it's taken us 20 years, you know, and it sounds wonderful, but we've really only scratched the surface of where we need to go. But it's quite remarkable, again, that shows, again, if we improve that spinal function by adjusting subluxations, we can have this dramatic effect on how the brain perceives what's going on in the body and the world around it again. So
and that's how we learn, you know, from a sensory. I do a lot of sensory motor dysfunction work, and, you know, we have those 8 sensory systems, but that's how we learn academically, socially, motor skill wise, emotionally. So it's it's the entire way we navigate and interact with others, with ourselves, and with our environment and the world. So this work is phenomenal. I think that's why I was so gravitated towards your awesomeness. It's really profound, understanding your neurology and putting it together with daily dysfunction that we see in our kiddos. But there was one thing that I always call it the pay it forward effect. I'm not as brilliant as your scientific mind, but you talked about a study in your reality check book that there were some young men, teenagers, that when they would lift their arm, they lost core control. So I wanted to ask you this. I get pinged a lot on social media about kids that don't crawl properly or sit in this W position or so forth. So I was thinking, when they learn how to crawl, and we relay that back lots of times to the STNR, this symmetrical tonic neck reflex not being integrated. But I was thinking, if they're starting to want to crawl and they lift their arm and they don't have that capacity paid forward to stabilize their core, do you think that would hinder their ability to have that core stability to crawl through space? Because we know crawling is so significant for neurodevelopment. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, and it's really quite fascinating. The more I get into this, the more, you start digging. And actually, before I answer the question, can I just say, I also love what you do, because you make that practically relevant to the actual practice of chiropractic. I mean, I'm often, airy-fairy research land, and yes, I can help with the facts so that we know what the facts are, but you dig it in and put it together so beautifully so that you can actually practice this stuff. But anyway, I'll answer the question now. Yes, there are so many of these little neurological anticipatory postural adaptations that we have to have functioning. And it's not that they lose their core stability when they lift their arm, it's that their brain is supposed to send messages to the core when you lift your arm in an anticipatory postural adaptation or a reflex. This is the way we're designed. But if we don't do that, the whole thing, like walking, crawling, standing, all these things become very difficult. It's what they're called postural adaptations. Yep. You start looking at, the control of posture. It's so complicated. It's not even funny. We try and break it down and make it easy, right? But there's so many aspects that are needed for us to be able to stand up. Absolutely. So can you imagine these kids, if they're not switched on and connected properly, and then they're trying to develop? Well, you're trying to develop when you're half broken. You can't develop properly unless you can switch these things on. The cool thing about that study with those guys, those young men, and that when I talk about it in the book there, is that a single adjustment session improved that feed forward switching on of the core muscles by 40%.
Oh my. Wow.
It is something that we can change. We don't know yet, well, how long does that last? And does it work for everybody? Does it work for the little kiddos? I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. There's so much more research we need to do. But at least it's pointing towards us playing a very important role in getting the neurology right.
Yes.
And I cannot imagine a group that deserves that more than our little kiddos.
Yes. And yeah, bless you. Yes. That's what drives me. Yeah. I have a saying, if you change the beginning of the story, you change the whole story. And that's really so much. You and I talked to, we both have a special place in our heart for the quote unquote mental illness realm.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're stuck in that limbic lock and load mode, it fires the HPA axis, it dysregulates autonomic nervous system regulation. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. And our neurophysiological and mental status can be very much compromised. So I just thank you for the work that you're doing and allowing us as field docs out there to grasp a hold of this knowledge and really get out there. 1 in 5 children in this country are said to have a mental disorder in the US. And that's not okay for me.
That's not okay.
So it's putting the pieces together, I think, is really what we owe the profession and the future for the kiddos. So, you know.
Yeah, well, that stress that is set up, it becomes a negative cycle for those kids. So they can't ever get out of it because they're constantly in that stress, and there'll be that physiological stress, there'll be the structural stress, chemical stress, emotional stress, and it just snowballs. So if you can break the cycle for them and get them back out of it, I don't even want to think about it. I'll start crying.
I know, it's huge. It's sometimes overwhelming, but it's huge. And with that said, you know, we've also given a gap, and it's been out there for a long time, about vagal tone. And that's an area, you know, we're still exploring as far as chiropractors, how we think we know, you know, that we affect vagal tone. But again, this all ties in together to vagal tone and the great influence that has on regulation across the board, neurophysiological wise.
Yeah, and I think that all comes through this. I mean, the mechanism that we now know when we adjust the spine is that we actually change the brain through the communication of the little paraspinal muscles. And I think it's that communication to the brain that then links it into the autonomic nervous system that will have that change on the vagal tone. Something we still need to study better. And it's something that, you know, I'm starting on now because like you, this is something that I find really, really interesting. And it's such a big part of the puzzle that we have to go there. And I'm really hoping to be able to work more too in the whole mental health realm, because it's a thing that's very, very close to my heart. It's something that we have to explore further.
Absolutely.
For those that don't know, I'm crazy, basically, is what I'm trying to say, you know. So, you know, to better understand, you know, the craziness.
You're crazy in a good way, in a very good way.
Well, I hope so.
But I know we could go on for days and hours. I say hours. We could go on for days. But I think we're going to have to wrap it up for this time. But who knows if we'll see you on here again, maybe sometime.
Oh, we'll have to do that, eh?
Absolutely. And Heidi, how can we best support you as a profession? Where can they find out more about your awesomeness? And give us a link. Give us something.
Well, we have my book is at HeidiHaavik.com. It's also on Amazon, so you can get that on Amazon. It's a lay language description. It's not written with, you know, huge big words. It's meant to be a translation of what the research is. But I also have an online membership that supports me big time to be able to, you know, do my mission of enlightening the world about the science of chiropractic. And it's called the Reality Check. And for, you know, you lovely guests that are listening to this, I can give a discounted thing for that. So if you go to therealitycheck.com/event, it's an actual discounted price to join the membership, where you can learn more about the science, and we give you a lot of tools how to communicate this science with the public.
Yeah, and everybody, I cannot recommend that site enough. It is phenomenal. So please help.
How can people learn more about what you offer? Because what you offer is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I have a mentoring program as well, and it's called, you can just go to www.intersect4life.com, and you can get all the information there, and fun ways to tie this.
I know. I'm not frozen, am I? Okay. Well, what I'd like to say too is a big thank you to Monika. She's an amazing, amazing practitioner that actually really learns the information that's out there in the latest. But I also want to say a big thank you to ChiroSecure and Stu Hoffman, Alan, Sharon, because you guys absolutely rock. And I thank you for all your support for both our research and myself over the years. And I do hope to be back with Monika and back on the show with ChiroSecure at some time in the future. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I think I'll pass it back over. Thank you so much.
Today's pediatric show, Look to the Children, was brought to you by ChiroSecure and the award-winning book series, I Am a Lovable Me. Make sure you join us next week, right here at the same time. See you next week.